Welcome back, everybody. We are going to discuss how to manage client expectations. This is a conversation that we could probably have over 2 or 3 hours in great detail, because not every client is the same. Not every situation is the same. Todd, you've been practicing real estate now. You're going into your 13th year.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you say you had it figured out in year 1?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Figured out
Let me
year
shake
1.
your hand.
Thanks very much. What I had figured out in year 1 is that I wanted to be a realtor.
Yes.
That's what I had figured out in year 1. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew where I was going to start getting clients from the past job I had.
Yes.
And I knew that was my angle, but figured out was no.
Right.
I was lucky enough to have a really great manager who was super eager to help. So I didn't know the process of helping someone write an offer to possession day.
Right.
Nobody does, right? They teach you how to not get sued, not how to do a deal. So
Yes.
he was amazing in helping me the whole. I'd call him and say, okay, we wrote the deal, now what?
Yep.
Okay, the deal's written, now what?
Yes.
So that's how much I had it figured out in 05.
Right.
Yeah.
So learning how to set expectations, learning how you were going to flow through an interview,
Yep.
how you were going to operate an open house, how you were going to even show your first property. These are all things you had to learn.
Figured it out.
So it's safe to say that over the course of your, in your 13th year, you've tried different things.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't worked. You've tried things that have worked.
Yes.
So the reason I ask this is because now we're going to discuss about how you have evolved
Yep.
and how you now set the expectation with your clients for maximum results, for the benefit of them, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but also to benefit you and your time.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
at the end of the day, you're always looking out for their best interest. But you also have to maintain yours as well to some degree. Otherwise, that wife of yours might not be so
Right.
forgiving.
Yes.
There might be a lot more guff coming
Guff,
your way.
Right. Guff.
Do you conduct a buyer interview?
Always.
Always?
Always, always. The way this works is, let's say you get a referral from somebody wants to buy. So you follow up that phone call, and one of the first questions I ask is, have you been pre-approved for your mortgage yet?
Mm-hmm.
They say no. You say, great, I'd love to refer you to somebody, or if you have someone in mind, please get that pre-approval in place. When you have numbers, then we will sit down at my office and we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I explain the reason those numbers are so important is I can't sit with you and look at property or show you property without knowing what you can afford.
Yes.
As much as their time's valuable, so is mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm big on the cliche, work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
So always, I won't even meet you until you can call me and say you've got a pre-approval number.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I'm sending you buyer's package through PDF, and I customize it, make sure their names are spelled correctly on the first page.
Yes.
And then I'll print out a buyer's package also, bring that with me to the meeting. And I book a client office. I'm good for 2 hours. I've had a meeting run 4
Yes.
as a buyer meeting. And that's because I like to be very thorough and go through the whole process. We start by getting to know each other, and we want to make sure we can work together.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, if we're going forward, the first thing I ever do is explain agency.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and do all my paperwork in the same meeting.
Yes.
As far as efficiency goes, that's the way to go. So explain agency, then they understand that relationship. And then if you feel you're ready, go right into buyer brokerage. I
Yes.
always use the exclusive. Once you explain that properly, there's no problem having them sign that then and there.
Right.
So now we sit down and talk about what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we've hammered out those needs and wants, we're going to go on the computer, which is why it's important to meet at an office. So you're in that professional office setting, we're in our briefing room, and on the big screen, we're now looking at actual properties that are for sale.
Yes.
So they may think they found 15, 20 they want to see. After we dissect that, we're down to maybe 7 to 10. Mm-hmm. And then we're actually going to look at the right properties, not all the properties.
So remind some of the experienced agents and the newer agents, what kind of expectations do you set with respect to narrowing it down from 20 properties to 5 or 7? How do you set those expectations? Is it something that you teach them on the spot, or is it something that kind of is ongoing as you go through the process of buying?
Well, the initial is looking at what their deal breakers are, right? So those needs and wants, we look at those first.
Mm-hmm.
And that list always changes through the whole process.
Yes.
So we have
I've often said people don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And especially newer buyers, even experienced buyers can say they want one thing. And when they get turned on to something else, their total mind changes.
Yep.
But for setting the expectation like that, explain some different ways that that happens. Is it, the main objections? Is it location, square footage? Do you challenge them to think outside the box?
Yes, and that's all through just listening to what they've said, right?
Mhm.
So it's so important to listen to the client.
Yes.
Find out what they need. If they say they need an ensuite bathroom, you better show them properties with an ensuite bathroom.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's a quick way to get fired, right?
Funny that's on that as well is sometimes they'll send you a property.
Yes.
They will miss that it does not have an ensuite. You got to point that out real quick.
I have a story. A couple of years ago, clients wanted to see a property that didn't have an ensuite, and that was on their criteria. That was their need. Absolute had to have it.
Yes.
I called them out on it, and they said, no, we still want to go see it. So we went, and I spent 20 minutes calling them out on this because there was no ensuite bath.
Yes.
And guess what house they bought?
Without the ensuite
Without
bath.
the ensuite bath. So,
and yet they were adamant from day one.
yes.
That totally changes everything. It changes everything as a search.
So
That's for sure.
with those expectations in mind, that buyer can always change what they want, but it's up to us to listen to that, right?
Yes.
And never do it until they say.
Yes.
On that, if they say they want to spend up to $400, don't ever show them $450 without their permission,
Right.
right? So I always make sure when we look at that price, there's two real purchase prices. There's the one that they're pre-approved to, and then there's always the lower one that they want to spend. So I never show them anything more than what they say they want to spend, unless I get their permission or they've asked me to increase that.
Yes. Right.
Right.
What kind of expectations do you set on the frequency of showing properties to your clients?
Once we do that buyer meeting, I try to close and put an actual showing date in place right then and there. So we're going to check calendars, and I make it personal. I tell them about my family, and I say, let's find a time that works for both of us.
Yes.
I've gone as far as saying to a client a few summers ago, my daughters are playing soccer every Tuesday and Thursday night from 6:30 to 7:30.
Yes.
Could we please not see properties? Because I'd really like to go.
Yes.
And the response from those clients were absolutely no problem.
Yes.
We don't care. We're fine.
Do you feel that the clients respect you more when you set those boundaries?
I do, and absolutely think they'll respect you more. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's that. Do you jump when they want to see something? I believe if you can't make a certain date and time, I believe that client's going to wait for you. If you've
Yes.
done the right steps and you've done this interview and you've gone through everything with them and you've locked them in, they'll be loyal to you. And way before buyer brokerage even came into effect, there was loyalty.
Yes.
So if you set the stage right and you paint a right picture that you're that professional they want to be with, you saying, I can't do Tuesday, but I can do Wednesday or Thursday, is that okay with you? It's never been an issue for me.
Excellent.
And they never move on to somebody else.
Right. So I think it's safe to say that when you set the right expectations and you're able to deliver on them,
Yeah.
and when your clients ask you questions, you answer in a timely manner, you build up that rapport. And as such, you're able to deflect them when you need to accommodate your schedule as well.
Yes.
Now, I can't see you putting people off for too long, because that's just not your style.
No.
You are the guy that jumps to it when need to be.
Absolutely.
What about when you have set a no-fly zone and you get an offer? What kind of expectations do you have to set with your own family in those cases?
Let's get back to what I was grateful for, right? It's exactly that.
Yep.
Time and a place. You got dinner plans. Everybody knows you're a realtor.
Yes.
Everybody knows that may not happen, but it's not a reason to not go to that dinner.
Right.
It's not a reason to not go to golf on a Tuesday morning.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So,
Well, funny you say that.
Right.
We were at the CIR company golf tournament last Tuesday, and sure enough, Mr. Skoby ended up getting word that there was going to be an offer come in on a property that his client was interested in. And that news came in at
7:45
7:45.
on the way down to the golf course.
Tell us a little bit more about that situation.
So on the way down, I get the phone call. on the way to the golf course, the property we were going to go see that night for a second showing ended up having an offer come in at 10:30 the night before.
Yes.
Open till noon,
Yes.
the day of the golf tournament. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the phone with my client, who's a first-time buyer, expecting him to say, no, I don't want to compete. I'm not interested. Let's just move on. And he says, I think I want to. I'll call you back in an hour. Mm-hmm. So now I'm trying, and he knew as far as setting expectations goes. He knew where I was going. He knew that.
Yes.
I had one call into an agent to help me write that offer. And, of course, he was up in Airdrie doing a caravan, busy. And then everybody else I knew was at the tournament.
Yes.
I had my Surface Pro with me, so he decided he wants to write this offer. And sure enough, I think it was either you or Steve that said, why don't you just write the offer? Mm-hmm. And I had my Surface Pro, so here I am sitting in the golf cart waiting for the frost to burn off.
Yep.
And I wrote the offer and got it out. I was able to hotspot my phone, got everything done, competed, and by noon we had won.
Now, what's interesting about this story, and probably the reason why we're taking you here, is you can set expectations or kind of set the type of conversations and the respect that you have amongst colleagues in the industry. Yeah. And in doing so, it can help or hinder your success. Such was the case with your competing situation. Mm-hmm. Now, we do know who the competing realtor was, and they'll remain anonymous. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is when you are a practicing agent in our industry, yes, there's over 5,000 of us. Yes, the odds of doing a deal with the same agent regularly is slim to none. But what's interesting is when you have discussions with agents and you build up their respect, it can help your clients in the end.
Yes.
Please tell tell our people about your situation.
So the two offers were almost identical to the T. So this agent contacted me back and said, how sure are you on financing? Because you guys are very close with your offers. They haven't chosen one yet. And we were solid because, again, I've done the pre-approval process. I knew it's through a mortgage broker I've worked with in the past. So I knew we were tight. And at that point, he called me back and decided to go with us. And he shared a little bit and said, your offers were the same, but I went with you because this agent 2 months ago ticked me off, and we're going to go with you instead. Yep. So it's important, as much as you treat clients well, yes, you got to treat those agents well because they're around, and that 80-20 rule is real in real estate. Yes. You're going to see the same names, and funny enough, this agent that I just won with, I actually sold his own condo about 4 years ago, and that transaction closed without an issue. Yes. And I was able to leverage that and remind him of that moving forward in order to win this deal. Yep.
We can't predict our clients' financing will be approved. We can't predict an inspection will go well. But we can conduct ourselves and set the expectation with the other industry professional that we truly are a professional.
Absolutely.
That we respect their time, we appreciate everything that they're doing, we respect their buyer or seller's time. And in doing so, you build up that rapport and that respect within the industry. So that when a situation like this happens, you won that because of the bad experience with the other agent a few months ago.
Absolutely.
Nothing to do with the buyer or the seller. Everything to do with the agents involved.
Yes.
And now you have a successful story just about operating with respect and dignity, whereas the other agent can't say the same.
That's right.
Yep. Yep.
So it worked out, right?
In regards to setting expectations with your selling clients, what kind of expectations do you set with them? With respect to showings or with respect to, let's say, market updates?
Right. With showing time now, as far as let's talk feedback, I've got mine set up like most do that feedback requests are automatic, and I let them know that we don't always get feedback. I will always try to get you feedback, and if I'm not successful through showing time, I'll always try the next day to get you something.
Right.
So the follow-up's important to try and get that. So you have to have that expectation that you may not get anything back from that other agent.
Yes.
So it's important to let your seller know you're doing your job, you're trying, but you may not get it.
I think that's very important because a lot of times the seller will have their own expectation. Yeah. And unless you address it, they're going to think that you get feedback from every single showing.
5 minutes after the showing.
Exactly.
So that's where you set that up.
Yes.
Before you walk out that door after you've listed the property. It's important. And then the weekly, right? We do a weekly
update.
Mm-hmm. You've been very good at that in your business. I know that. Mm-hmm. Where you sat Sunday nights and did an email all the time. If I'm not.
Yeah. So Sunday I started it, and by Tuesday or Wednesday I would update it with the stats of the sales that updated for the weekend, just to keep them all apprised on what's going on, and if they need to change things, worry about things, who the new competitor on the block is, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important to keep them updated, let them know what new properties have popped up, and you can do that a few ways, right? Send out your email, send out through Matrix just automatic emails that come out, so they show up right away, or set your date. Make sure you have yourself getting those emails so you know what's going on in the marketplace. Also, it's important when there's a price reduction on a comparative property that you want to make sure you're still priced accordingly.
This is going to be a question that some people will agree with, some people won't. When you're sitting at home at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday and you showed a property on the weekend, is that the time that you appreciate getting a call for feedback?
No. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day too. No, I think there's certainly time and a place for feedback. It's certainly not Sunday morning.
Yes.
I think Monday morning works.
Yes.
If I'm not getting the feedback forms back through showing time, no, I'm not going to call you Sunday if you showed Saturday.
Yes.
Because really the feedback is we haven't written an offer.
Yes.
So let's find out Monday or Tuesday. And even a Monday afternoon is better than a Monday morning because we're all here at a meeting. So the likelihood of getting anything that Monday morning is pretty slim.
Yes.
Wait it out till Monday afternoon if you can. Get that feedback and then let your clients know right away.
Yes. I think it's a great tip for our agents as well, is setting that expectation with your seller that you will be following up for feedback, but you're more than likely going to do it during business hours. Typically, realtors are very busy showing properties on the weekends. And as we know, usually if an offer is going to come, the realtor is going to bring one, or at least call and suggest that there's interest. So just a recommendation is not to be calling all the time for feedback during dinner time, during prime time on the weekends, or a half hour after your showing was scheduled for, because, of course, the agent's still showing property. So
exactly. You're not going to get anything out of that person right then and there.
In my history, I've gotten calls right in the middle of the next showing that I've been at asking for feedback. And I think it was a realtor oversight. At the same time, I'm usually not going to answer my phone. In the past when I was consistently selling, I wasn't going to answer my phone during that time. And nor would you, nor would any of our agents. But just a little
then you
reminder.
feel like you want to answer it because do they have some sort of serious update on that property, right? Maybe they have an offer you'd like to know about.
Yes.
So now you're disrupting your buyers through something that's nothing.
Yep. And on that, if you are an agent that's getting an offer, that is the time to call.
Yes.
Right? Because it's relevant, need to know right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But setting that expectation with your clients that, feedback should, you're going to work on getting it, but it's going to be during certain hours is the best way to go. That way they're not hounding you. And you're not living up to an expectation that they have set for you that you've never addressed, that you're inherently letting them down on because you've never taken the time to set that expectation.
So a question for you. Is it acceptable to not answer your phone during dinner time if you're not in a heat of a negotiation? Is it okay to wait it out and call your client back? Or do you have to answer it every time it rings?
Right. 100% acceptable to wait.
Yeah.
If you're not in the heat of a negotiation, I would say wait. Now, this is something that I never practiced up until the second half of my selling career, because I always felt like when my client is there, I need to answer the bell.
And I would agree. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
But that comes with experience and time, and just knowing that that client's still going to be there half an hour later.
That's right. If you're consistently meeting the bar that you've set with your clients, you have no reason to feel like they're just going to leave you based on missing a call.
Agreed.
Or not responding to an email within 3 hours or something like that.
And it's also okay to tell them you had dinner or you just got back from the swimming pool with your kids. It's okay to make yourself human to these clients because you have a life.
Yes.
It's okay to have one. That's why we got into this game, right? So we could actually have a life outside of work.
Quality of life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I'm huge on that.
Yep.
And anybody that knows me knows I preach that all the time. Work-life balance it's a deal breaker for me.
Yes.
In this industry, for sure.
Yes. Yep.
And I've yet to have somebody walk away from me because of it. So
I've got 2 more short questions, and then we're going to break for another video. When you go and meet a client for the first time regarding listing their home, Do you bring numbers the first time you go?
No. I could bring you some recent sales, but I could never come in and tell you I'm going to be able to sit down with you and tell you what your home's worth.
Yes.
I can't do that without seeing the property.
Yes.
So it's important to get in there, and that's setting an expectation. Before you go to that meeting, let them know, I'd like to come by for 10 minutes, look at the property, take some notes, and then I'm going to go away, do my homework. I'm going to set up another appointment to come back, and then we'll sit down and do a proper analysis of your property.
Yes.
And then that way, we can look at what your property is worth based on condition, upgrades in it. If it's never been on MLS, you may not know what they have.
Yes.
So it's no, I don't do the numbers off the first, for sure.
I've heard of a lot of agents with predominantly other brokerages that will show up, and they won't necessarily look throughout the home. They'll give numbers based on community stats, quick look at the living room, the kitchen, and then they'll sit down and want to get to business.
Right.
How do you handle that? Do you walk through the home, every room, looking at it carefully? Do you take notes at that time?
Absolutely.
And why is that important to you, Todd?
Because you might find something. You might find something and you learn a lot. So it's also important to note, have your seller come with you
Yes.
when you're touring the property and ask them to brag about it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Get them excited about their home again. Find out what they love, because it might be something you don't know.
Yes.
It could be mechanical, something that you don't know exists that you should market and leverage for the price. It's important. Do the walk around the exterior. You might find something that's damaged outside, some upgrades you could recommend them doing.
Yes.
And then indoors, yeah, absolutely. Go through every room with that client. One, it's learning the property. Two, it's a great time to establish rapport with that client also.
Yes. Yeah. I've always done that in my career because, like you said, you challenge them to brag about the property.
Yeah.
We as realtors, we buy and sell homes, multiple homes a year. Some realtors are inside of 1,000 homes a year, looking at them. Some are doing listing presentations all the time.
Yeah.
The one thing to remember is that when you're in front of that one client, this is the first time they're selling their home or second time in their life. It's a magical, big experience for them. And sometimes we, get caught up in the hustle bustle of our lives and the busyness that we have in our lives, and we forget to really reflect that this is a really big moment for them.
Yes.
So by going through every room and asking them to brag about it, it really gets them involved on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And I would be willing to bet that you secure a lot more listings than you don't because of this attention to detail and this genuine care that you show for them and the biggest asset that they own.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, it's important, right? That's trust.
Yes.
In their eyes, they can hire any agent out there to do the job, but they're hiring a person.
Yes.
So that's where that comes down to establishing that trust.
Yes.
They need to believe and trust you that you're going to be able to do a good job for them and feel safe with you.
Yep.
You're in a marriage with that seller for as long as that takes, and if you're lucky enough, you're going to help them buy as well.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that they feel good with you and they want to pick you over anybody else that they have. Say everybody's got 5 people that knows 10 agents, right?
Yes. Yep.
So how do you become that one?
Yes.
You got to set yourself apart somehow.
Yep. And doing those little things to us are big things for them.
Yeah.
And that could be the difference maker.
And we can't assume they know.
Right.
We can't assume that what we do is normal.
Yes.
Because they don't know what they don't know. This isn't their forte. This is not what they do every day. So don't assume they know what we know.
Yes. And one last question for you. Do you discuss the market conditions with the seller based on time of year? How do you answer that question when it comes up a lot of the time?
A lot of people say, is this a good time to sell?
Yes.
And I'm the guy that'll tell them no if I believe it's no.
Yes.
This time of year, sure, it's a great time, get it on the market, but we have a limited window here come mid-November. If it's not a need to sell, I'm going to recommend maybe pulling it off, getting it back on. I've gone as far as advising my clients. I had a situation where we did that. We had it on, took it off for Christmas. Her words were, I want Christmas to throw up in my living room.
Nice.
So we took it off the market, and I said, let me tell you when to put it back on. Like, I don't have a date yet, but let me tell you when. So I kept watching the market, and come January, we ended up putting it back on the market, and 2 weeks later had it sold.
Nice.
So that's just by watching those market conditions and knowing everybody else pulled their properties off. Let's
Yes.
get back on before anybody else.
Yes.
And we secured the sale, and they've moved on since.
You clearly set the expectation with your client that you need to watch for certain times and certain market conditions,
Yep.
and you capitalized
Absolutely.
to the benefit of your client.
Yes.
Yeah, very well done.
Yeah.
Well, we'll break for a quick video, and then we'll be back to have a short discussion on dressing for the role, and we'll wrap it up at that time.
Sounds good.